Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk, the preview show. We're recording today after the defeat up in Barnsley, but we do have a game on Tuesday to bounce back. Charlton will be the visitors coming up to Pride Park, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sue Gallop from Charlton Live to preview the game. How are you, Sue?
I'm good. I'm good now. We've had that result yesterday.
Yeah, obviously doing us a favour, not just with the result yesterday, but also the draw up at Bolton as well. We were just talking off camera, and I think we presumed that once Nathan Jones had come in, you'd start getting the results. Obviously, there haven't been wins, but a first clean sheet yesterday is very well welcomed. How have you seen those last two? Obviously, Lincoln game before. I know you've obviously lost to Reading after you lost to us, but there seems to be a bit of a turning tide here, Sue. Would you say?
Yeah, I think Nathan's obviously starting to instill his way of playing. He's been making quite a lot of changes to the starting lineup. Even over I think it's 4 games that he's had now. He's changed it up a bit quite a lot, and I think one of them things is if he's not getting what he wants from you in training, or if he's giving you a chance in a match, then the chances are, if you've not done what he's wanted you to do in the game or in training, then you won't start, or you might not come off the bench. So I think as in that as well, he's kind of come out and said in some of his media stuff is that the summer's going to be a big window for us. And I think he's kind of switching players about a bit so that he can kind of get a better idea about who he's going to stick with in the summer, and who he's going to let go, because he's come out and said our squad is too big. We've got sort of probably too many bodies in certain positions and not enough in others. So I think potentially we could see quite a brutal window once that reopens in the summer. But he's definitely putting his mark on the performances, even though, like you say, they're draws, but they're games that we would, under the previous manager, we would have lost. So, and the way we're playing now, we're sort of setting up in a lot more of like attacking minded way. So I think even when we played you, although I know you've all sort of said that you're not happy with the way you're playing, but you're still getting those results, we weren't even getting that. We weren't getting the performances and we weren't getting the results. Whereas now we've had these draws, and like you say, yesterday's our first clean sheet since last October. So we're all like buzzing with a 0-0 draw against Portsmouth. They're top of the table. They haven't conceded or they haven't lost in I don't know how long. So I think we're at that stage now, but we're just like, any of those positives, you just got to hold on to them and take them forward. So, and again, I think that's how Nathan is in his mindset. He's focus more on the positives, because you can change the bits that need working on. But then let's take that into Tuesday. Let's take that into next Saturday, and sort of that, you get that sort of rolling effect then, don't you? The confidence comes back in the players, and it just ends up being a bit more of a consistent way of performing, and the confidence coming with that.
Yeah, and I guess looking at these fixtures, Bolton, Pompey, and then coming up to Derby, they're 3 tricky games to navigate. But past that, you've got Northampton away, you've got Charlton away, then you've got Carlisle and Fleetwood. So that you've got a batch of games there where really you should be looking at picking up some wins and picking up some more points. It is looking a bit desperate, looking at the table. Obviously, there's a couple of teams below you that have got some games in hand. At time of recording, 34 played, 34 points. There's a bit of a gap to 19th as well, so a 4-point gap. I think everyone's thoughts, people that I speak to in the division, is that Charlton are probably going to get out of it. However, looking at that, it doesn't look too good at the moment. What's the feeling amongst the Charlton fans at the moment, Sue?
I think if you'd asked us probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, we would have probably been saying that we're convinced we're going down. I think we almost have a new sense of confidence now with Nathan coming in because of seeing how much better we're playing, how much more organised we look. I mean, even down to if you look back at the stats, we were always conceding in the last sort of couple of minutes of a game. It was like we couldn't last the full match. So even then, we're starting to see that bit of difference, that we're not. It doesn't feel like we're hanging on for dear life. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think now, although we're still a bit worried because of how close we are, the goal difference, we've probably got one of the better goal differences down there. And sometimes that can be as good as a point in itself, can't it? So I think on the whole, people, because again, like you say, we've played the top 3 teams in the league and done all right. So then when we play those teams that are maybe not as sort of as good, that we've got the potential. They're the ones, if we don't win some of those ones, that I think that'll be when we go, you know what, maybe we are just going to go down. But I think with the mindset that we're in now, where we're getting these positive results, even if you can call it 0-0 a positive, for us at the moment it is. So we're just like them, right? And again, I think maybe I'm being a little bit too cocky or whatever, but I do feel like we'll get a result up at yours on Tuesday. So if we win against you Tuesday night, I think that's going to give the whole squad and the fan base a massive boost. And then you take that into next Saturday, and who knows?
Yeah, and we spoke off camera, and I think I'm a little bit worried, to be honest, about Tuesday, because looking at those results, I think, you know, you probably could have nicked something against Bolton. Obviously, got a really good result against Portsmouth, and it almost feels like the win is coming soon. So, I mean, for our sake, I hope it's not on Tuesday, but I know you're going to come up and be a tough opposition for sure. Just thinking back to the previous game, if we can touch on that just slightly. Obviously, from our side, I think it was quite a professional 1-0 win. I think actually you had a fair share of the ball. You had a couple of chances. It just felt like you just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net ultimately, which I'm sure has been a problem at certain points this season. How did you find that game, the home game against Derby?
I guess the overriding feeling was frustration, because, like you say, it was a pretty even game. And I think even prior to the game, we'd spoken to one of your guys from your pod about how you've been playing, and even though you're getting the wins, that the football itself is not attractive, or even watching it thinking that you're going to get a win, because it's not a great quality of football. But I guess for us, we were like, a win's a win at the end of the day. We were desperate. We're desperate for one. So we'll take it any way it comes. It can be boring for as long as it wants to be. But I think I was surprised actually at how poor you were. And I know that sounds really harsh, but again, I think Derby are still one of those clubs that everyone looks at and goes, wow, they're a big club. And they are. And I've loved coming up there in past seasons. I think it's a fantastic ground. It's a fantastic fan base. But I was surprised at how poor you were. And then I think, the disappointment of only, like, you think if you're going to lose, just get battered. Don't, like, a 1-0 loss, it feels even more disheartening in a way, because you think like that, it's just such a small margin, isn't it? But again, I think, because I think that was the game that Nathan was sort of going to be named within the next couple of games. So I think he was at that game. So I think already there was a bit of a sort of positive vibe around the club. But I think just that frustration that we just couldn't finish those chances, because like you Alfie May's one of the top goal scorers in this league. And for whatever reason, it's just not happening for him at the moment, which has resulted in Nathan having him on the bench for a couple of games. But now we've got Chuck's back. Freddie seems to have started to get a bit more, because I think the problem with him was he wasn't match fit when we got him in. So he looked a bit leggy the first couple of games we had him in. We've obviously got young Dan Carno that literally plays with no fear at all, which you would expect for a 19-year-old. And yeah, so I think, and again, Nathan is, I mean, it's well publicised, the strength of our academy and how many players come through our academy and end up playing in the first team. So I think like Nathan started to sort of go with a lot of that youth, because he shows that confidence in them. But yeah, going back to the game at the Valley, it was just frustrating, really frustrating, because again, like I think we sort of reflected on it the following day when we did our pod, and it was like, how did we not get anything in that game? It just felt frustrating.
Yeah. And I think you could look at it and probably say a draw, a 1-1 draw probably would have been a fair result in all fairness. You said there, obviously, we weren't that impressive. And one thing we tried to do in January is bring a player in to add a little bit more excitement, and obviously raided you for Cory Blackett-Taylor. We've not seen the best of him. He's picked up a couple of injuries, and you know what we have seen is probably a player that needs to get used to a new system and find his feet in a new environment. But how good was he, Sue, for Charlton?
Well, he was our most creative player. So I think when you look at the fact that Alfie scored so many goals, it was because of Cory. That the speed he's so quick, and he can just rip players like defenses apart with his skill. I mean, we were so gutted when he went, but we knew it was going to happen, because I think obviously he was out of contract in the summer, and if he didn't go in that window, he would have gone for nothing. And I think, for sort of knowing Cory, he's originally from not far from Derby, so I think he'd always had that feeling that he wanted to go back closer to home. But yeah, once you see the real Cory, he's going to be unbelievable for you. He's just such a great player and very creative. I mean, we did have those periods of time where he was quite frustrating. So there'd be games where he looked like he wasn't necessarily in the right headspace, so he didn't feel like he was necessarily putting as much effort in for whatever reason. But again, he struggled with injuries with us as well. And I think if potentially, if he wasn't a player that struggled with the injuries he's had, he'd probably be playing at a much higher level, because he's got that ability. I think it's the injuries that have held him back. But if you keep him fit and you see the best side of Cory, like, you've got a player. He is unbelievable. On his day, he is unreal. He's unstoppable.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you sign certain players and then you look at, I mean, it might just be testament to Charlton as a club and a fan base, but sometimes when players leave, there's almost like, oh, he wasn't that good anyway, or we can do better without him kind of thing. But everything I saw from Charlton fans was positive, wishing him the best, and just saying that, you know, he has the ability to be a game changer. Obviously, like I say, we've not seen that just yet. But hoping to see that in the not too distant future. And, you know, if he can find his feet, he could be a vital player as we look at that top two. Obviously, looking at the game against Pompey, you lined up in a 3-5-2. Has that formation changed? Has that been the way you've played all season? And is that the way that you're probably going to play on Tuesday night, Sue?
I think. I think we have played 3-5-2 all season. and quite a lot of the fan base get frustrated with it because they, at the time, the two previous managers to Nathan felt that wasn't our strongest way of setting up, but Nathan stuck with it. I think in part because I mean, as a manager, he does, like, you look at his past jobs and he does mix things up a bit to kind of suit the players and what's needed for any particular game. But I think part of his rationale for sticking with the 3-5-2 is that was the system that the squad were used to, and I feel like he didn't want to change it up too much because then you just completely alienate everyone. I mean, at some points prior to Nath coming, they did all look like a group of players that were strangers to each other. But then if you change the way you line up, like in terms of your positions, I think that would have been even more disorientating for a lot of the lads. So I think he's kind of stuck with it and trying to make it work, but like switching the personnel up to freshen it up a bit.
Yeah, and I guess it's very short term in sense of let's keep us in the division, and then come the summer, let's look at the squad, let's look at the formation, and kind of go from there. I guess it's almost like we're doing what we need to do to ensure we survive. I suppose so.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, if you, again, like, you do everything you can to scrap out wins or draws to stay in the league, and however that is, whether that's in a formation that the fans don't like, so be it, because at the end of the day, staying up is the most important thing. So however that happens, like, even if we turn into a derby and play absolutely awful, but we start getting 1-0 wins for the rest of the season, happy days, because we stay up and then we look at it in the summer, and just like get whatever personnel he wants in the summer when he has whoever he lets go. And then I guess he will then look at that formation again, or equally look at what formation he might want to play next season, and then look at what personnel would fit into that.
Yeah, and I guess to go back on that, I mean, Derby played well on Saturday and ended up losing the game, and I think we've played worse and won. So there's definitely many different ways to pick up results, and obviously with Nathan Jones, he's done that. He's done that at this level. He's done that at the level above. You know, he knows what he's doing. So in him, I think he's the best person that you'd kind of want at this situation. To be quite honest. We've obviously touched upon Alfie May, who you said has been kind of dipping in and out of form. Would you say that he's the danger man? Is he the man that's going to come to Pride Park and steal the show, get a goal, and potentially win the game for you?
He's got the potential to, but if I'm honest, I would say our main danger man now is Dan Carno. He's got no fear. He's strong. He's quick. He'll just, I think some strikers get a little bit wary about just making shots, don't they? They want it to be the perfect goal. He doesn't. He'll just have a go from wherever he is. He's got a very good vision for a young man. He's very grounded, but he's just got the ability to back it up. And I think he obviously had a little bit of time at a League Two club, and I think that's helped him a lot in terms of sort of building on his game and his confidence, because he scored quite a few goals for Southend when he was with them, even though it was for quite a short period. But when he's come back, he's just breathed new life into the squad, and I think other young, well, not only other young players, but a lot of the squad have kind of then looked at that and go, because there's competition for places now, whereas prior to that, obviously we had Alfie and Chucks gets injured again, and then you're very reliant on Alfie. Now, for a period of time, he stepped up to that plate and he did do it, but for whatever reason, he's gone off the boil a bit. People know how to sort of mark against Alfie and know how to close him down. I think he's a bit more of a known quantity now, isn't he? So he's not being given so much space to be able to play his game anymore. And whereas I think Dan's different in that he's very young. There's not a lot known about him. So I think he will definitely be one to watch. And Cory Anderson, one of our other young lads, he's building in confidence again under Nathan, and it's well, he got man of the match yesterday, and he's like 19 years old. So yeah, but definitely, I would definitely say Daniel.
Yeah. And in terms of the Derby team, then obviously you weren't that impressed with us at the Valley, which you said. But how do we potentially exploit your weaker areas then? How would you say Derby need to win this game? How would they go about doing it?
I guess still our defence is our weakest area. And I think if you are playing that pressing football, that potentially is gonna leave our defence a bit worn out. They are. There's been some horrendous mistakes made this season. I think one of the other issues was the goalkeeping situation. Now Ashley is a fantastic goalkeeper, but there were goals that were going in that clearly, although you put some responsibility on the defence, obviously, because it shouldn't get that far in the first place. But we also then didn't feel like we had that confidence in Ash. And now Nathan has put Harry Eisted back in, he worked with at Luton. So he's got that confidence. But I would say, yeah, probably set plays have been our weakness in conceding. So I think potentially you're going to have more success from your set plays as opposed to open play.
Okay, well, obviously scoring one at the weekend was good practice then. I'll be sure to send Paul Warne a message and say put it in the box and hang it up there and see what happens, I guess. That's awesome. And I think that's a really good kind of overview of the situation at the moment for Charlton. I'll say this: I think you're a big club, and I also think you're a great club. I had a really good away day there, obviously for Derby, and had some really good conversations with Charlton fans. And it's one of them when you sometimes go to away games, you don't really kind of converse with away fans, the other fans. And there's a few people that even kind of come up to us and wished us the best for the season, and it does feel like a good club. So I do hope that you stay in the division. Obviously, I can't wish you all the best for Tuesday because we need those points, unfortunately, Sue. So yeah, can't do that. But I do wish past that particular game that you get the results that you need. With that in mind, I'm going to come to you for a prediction. You said that you were feeling confident earlier, so give me a score prediction and a goal scorer if you think there's going to be one.
Okay, so I think we're going to win 2-1. I think Dan is probably going to score one. I'm trying to think who else would possibly, maybe 2 for Dan. Yeah, I don't know, because obviously the other game we had like one of our defenders scored, which was really unheard of. So we're just so unpredictable. So I'm going to go with maybe Dan to score a brace. And then
it's good to be feeling confident. And it doesn't really matter if you're winning 2-1, does it? I suppose. But no, I share your opinion. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, which that was my prediction for the game at the weekend against Barnsley. So I'm gonna stick with 1-1. I think you will get something. I think you've been able to obviously go up against Bolton and Pompey, and I think you'll look at it and probably think 3 points from them results is actually good, especially if you can go on and get some results from those around you. But yeah, looking forward to the game. Maybe, I don't know at the moment whether Blackett Taylor's going to be fit. Obviously, he missed out of the weekend and missed out the game before. So maybe he's waiting in the wings, ready for Charlton on Tuesday. But we'll have to wait and see for that one. But thanks so much, Sue, for joining us and giving us an overview on Charlton. And if you've enjoyed this preview, please go and rate us 5-star wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll be back on Sunday to discuss this game and also the fixture on Saturday as well. But until then, it's just left for me to say thank you, Sue, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.